The next presentation will be on post-harvest best practices for fruit quality, and Paul Cronje will present that. Paul is a portfolio manager for citriculture. Thank you, Paul.
Good morning, everybody. So I'm going to present my presentation on rind disorders and fruit quality. So best practices to retain fruit quality is very important. As Mitchell earlier said, it's not only about market access, but it's also maintaining market, and this is where fruit quality comes into play. Okay, so post-harvest fruit quality consists of your rind condition, so that's the external as well as the internal quality. Your rind condition is made up of the biochemical components, your color, so your sugars in the rind for respiration, and the moisture. And then the physical damage of the rind, if the fruit was damaged by sun, insect, or even in the post-harvest stage, during harvest or in the pack house. And then you have your physiological disorders, the rind breakdown, pitting, zebra skins, and the chilling injuries that we always talk about. And then, of course, the decay development. The internal quality is mainly made up by your sugar, your bricks, and your acids, but those two components also make up for taste and flavor. So that's the food quality that we need to maintain. Okay, so good rind condition can be defined as the rind have the ability to remain physiological intact for at least 40 days after harvest. So that's what we need to get the fruit to the market and to the consumer. So to do this, we must manage this whole post-harvest supply chain from harvest right through until the cold chain. So it's the harvest, it's the orchard to pack house, the pack house, all those processes like degreening, the chemical applications. The cold chain, as Paul now explained, the time to cooling, the shipment durations, and then also the storage in the market. That's important to maintain your rind condition. This is just a very complicated slide of as an illustration of all the processes that's involved in getting your fruit to the market. So what I want to illustrate here is that you need to have qualified and competent people involved in all these different stages to make the right decisions right through the season. Because if you neglect one of these steps, you're going to pay the penalty later on in terms of fruit quality that's going to be compromised. Okay, so the first part to retain your quality is, of course, harvest. And before harvest, you need to determine your harvest window. So unfortunately, this is very cultivar and area specific. So you need to figure out for your cultivar, excuse me. So you need to figure out for your cultivar in your area what is the correct harvest window, so that your bricks and your acids and your color are all matched. The big problem is that immature fruit, so that's too early, so they don't have color. They also very juvenile and can damage easily. So if you harvest immature fruit, you have problem, but also if you harvest over mature fruit. So there's a sweet spot that you need to find for your farm or your production area for a specific cultivar to stop any problems happening. Over mature fruit, of course, they can dehydrate and low acids and abscise as well. Okay, but during the harvest day, it's also important to monitor the conditions where you're harvesting, so the wet versus dry conditions. Traditionally, we always said dry conditions and a little bit of a dehydrated tree is better to stop oleo. But we have now learned that there, unfortunately, if you have too much dehydration in your fruit rind, you can suffer from rind disorders like a zebra skin or a pitting. So we need to always take note of the VPD, so calculate your vapor pressure deficits. That will determine your rate of moisture loss from your fruit, and test the fruit of your rind oil release pressure penetrometer. Okay, so now at the pack house, from the orchard to the pack house, so it's very important your type of transport and in your duration. Some of our fruit is very heavy because of all the sugars and because they're large, say like a grapefruit, and they can, if you don't transport them correctly, they can bruise and get injuries, and that will lead to moisture loss. And sometimes in the case of like star ruby, they get that blossom end clearing if they bounce too much during your transport. And then also your duration from when the fruit was harvested until it went into the pack house is very important. If it's too long, the fruit will start dehydrating. You will suffer, or your fruit will suffer as stem and rind breakdown and zebra skin. And as well as for the Tango Nadorcot grouping, they get this post-harvest splitting that we will just address also at the end. So one of the best things then is to use your drains as soon as possible to remove the field heat and get your 2,4-D on your fruit. Of course, my colleagues will go more in detail into the fungicides, but from a fruit physiological point of view, it's always good to drains as soon as possible. And then storage before you go into the pack line, because the pack line is not always running, or there's oversupply of fruit. So, but keep the fruit cool and in an area where there's a little bit of wind movement, but also try to increase your humidity in that environment. So it mustn't stand outside under sun, direct sun on the fruit. It must be in a little bit of a higher humidity in a shaded environment. Degreening is a very positive technology that we use to access markets much quicker with the cultivars that struggle to develop color. But there's a lot of negatives that comes with degreening because the ethylene is a senescence agent, so it accelerates your senescence, not only breaking down your chlorophyll, but other processes as well. So your calyx upsizing, you get increased decays, you get some of physiological defects like the nullus, rind breakdown of nullus, the senescence-related defects. They get higher expression. So when you degreen, make sure that you control 100% all the aspects in your degreening rules. Just a little bit of a summary of that. So not all cultivars respond similar to degreening. So you need to take note of what cultivar you can degreen at what stage. Just a note, Tango and Nadorcot do not respond to ethylene. Do not try to degreen them. If you have a problem with your rind color of those two cultivars, you need to find other solutions. There's nothing that you can do in a degreening room. If you're in Nadorcot and Tango, you're only going to compromise your internal quality. The maturity of the rind for other cultivars, there must be at least some color movement on the fruit. So you can't just put a very green fruit in the degreening room. It must at least have a big part orange on the rind as well. And then also always carefully, any blemishes any damage to the fruit will develop in an oleotype blemish because of the oil release. During the degreening, ethylene mustn't be higher than 3 ppm because it's just too much senescence that will go on. Extract the CO2 from the room continuously because it inhibits the effective working of your ethylene. And then make sure that for your cultivar, your temperature is correct. So it's lower temperatures for soft citrus and higher temperatures for hard citrus. Okay, now in the pack house, you must take note that all this movement of the fruit, all the bouncing and rolling of the fruit is negative, and it will impact negatively on the quality. Firstly, if the rind gets bruised, you can get moisture loss. But then also you can get off flavors. So there's just a little example of fruit that was just in a bin, and the ethanol production over 6 weeks, you can see it's much lower than fruit that was actually put over the pack line, where there's much more ethanol produced, and that is of course indicative of your off flavors happening. So it's very important then the waxing. So we're going to spend some more time on the waxing, know your products, but the application rate and efficacy is extremely important. If you have a good wax and you do not apply it it doesn't help you spend all that money on buying wax. So you must get both right. And then in the drying tunnels, the temperature by time is important to get the fruit dry. And also remember that during the season, environmental conditions change. So what started in, say, when you started your pack house in April, it's not the same drying tunnel conditions that the settings that you can use, say, in June when it's cold and wet in the middle of winter. Okay, so sorting technology is very important in the pack lines, and most of our pack houses, the new pack houses, all have very fancy sorting technology. So use them to identify any aspect that can reduce the variation in quality. So that means use the color sorters, the blemish sorters, the size sorters, also the ratio of the size by mass. So just use those fancy machines that you bought to the best of their ability to make sure that when you put fruit in a box, the variation is decreased, so that you know that box is a very high quality fruit, so you can maybe go to a different market. Two examples is Nulis Clementine, that small yellow Nulis will always give you a rind breakdown, and then pink Star Rubies gives you very low chilling injury. Okay, the wax application traditionally was for moisture loss and fungicide, was for fungicide. But over the years, we have found out that is one of our main defenses against chilling injury. As we indicated, we going to all these cold steady markets, and from 2018 to the EU as well, 2 degrees and lower. So chilling injury is a major part of our fruit quality challenge in the industry. So, and wax is this, as I say, the main defense against that. So the best equipment you need for mixing the wax, so that you can get your TVZ into the wax mixture, so that the solids doesn't get the bottom. Your brush types, make sure that you spend some money on your brush types. Don't go for the cheapest brush, because you need to apply it all over the fruit and the calyx, as well as all the surfaces, otherwise it doesn't help. And then the drying before and after the wax is also important. So that's you need to spend some time on your drying tunnels to make sure that your wax process is effectively applied. And then there's a lot of different waxes on the market. So you can wax for a purpose or for a market. But in general, for chilling injury, always use high solid waxes. What I also tested this year is that last year there's some new products like a vegan wax from JBT. So it's really good to see there's some new waxes on the line that gives us different market opportunities. But I just want to say, be very careful for some of the waxes that they call bio or green, or all those waxes for the chem-free programs. Some of them do not perform well, and they don't dry out well, the fruit is tacky, and they don't offer a real advantage. So just be careful when you put the wax on the fruit, that firstly you have that's a certified wax that you know will not give you a problem in terms of MRLs, but also that it actually can do what the people think or the marketeer says. Okay, so just a little bit more background on chilling. Everybody that's been in industry now know that we get chilling injury above freeze point. So it's a time temperature dependent physiological disorder, and it's cumulative. So that means the longer you are at the wrong time, at the wrong temperature, the more chilling injury you're going to get. And unfortunately, we've seen a rapid increase in chilling injuries since we started with the FMS. So that's, that is about 45% of our volume, plus the other steady market. So that just indicates what a big problem chilling injury is for us. So how to combat chilling injury? First, know your cultivars. So there's always differences in cultivars within groupings and between groupings. Like a turkey is more susceptible than a Valencia. Valencias in general are less susceptible than navel. So there's a lot of differences, and you need to figure that out with your marketeers in the feedback that you get. Harvest date, early and late, is more susceptible, but well-colored fruit. So that's the big thing. A very orange fruit or very pink fruit. That's the only way to really protect yourself. And also small fruit as well as sunburned fruit is highly susceptible to chilling injury. Post-harvest application, TBZ in the drench and the wax is still the only chemical that I've tested that have any significant contribution in reducing chilling injury. So please, yeah, I know the MRL issues is a big problem, but if you have susceptible fruit and you're going to a cold market, please apply your 2,4-D, your TBZ, as well as your 2,4-D, and then use a higher solid wax in the range of the 18–20%. The duration is the second part, and that's where this talks fit in with what Tal said. Unfortunately, we need that longer durations for our effective treatment of the larvae. You can see in the slide on the left, the lower temperatures give you higher chilling, but it increases as your days in storage increase. So we need to expose the fruit to a certain amount of cold temperatures, but when it's finished after 30 days, we need to step up. This is a nice example of some experiments that we did in a commercial environment, that the container spent 47 days at 2 degrees, and which ended up in quite a lot of chilling injuries. So please make sure that you step up the containers after 30 days. Okay, so this is my first questions. What percentage of containers were not stepped up after 30 days? If you can just give me an indication, I would like to see what kind of problem we have there. Okay, so in the market, so our fruit normally go to Europe. It's not directly sold, so it goes into cold storage there. It's kept and it's then distributed throughout the market in trucks. I recommend no storage lower than 4 degrees in those cold storage rooms, because below 4 degrees, citrus are more susceptible to chilling injury. At 4 degrees for a long duration, you will also get some chilling injury, but at least if it's just for a few weeks, it should be okay. In those cold storage in the markets, some type of disorders like the progressive disorder, so there's the senescence type disorders, they could get worse, like the Reinbregen of Nullus. So you can start off with a certain percentage and it can increase over the next few weeks. But chilling injury shouldn't increase over the time. If you do a comprehensive assessment on arrival of your chilling injury incidents, and then after storage of 3 weeks at 4 degrees, you shouldn't get more chilling injuries. What normally happens, there's not a comprehensive evaluation of chilling injury on arrival, and then only before the fruit is sold after some time in the cold stores, then they find out there's chilling injury, and then they indicate that it's progressive, but it's not progressive. It was only then assessed. Okay, so I also would like to know what's the normal duration of cold storage in EU. If you can just give me some indication there. And then what is the temperatures that you have used, or your fruit are subjected to in the EU? And I just want to see if it's in what ranges is it. Okay, so my last two slides is just on temperature related disorders. So unfortunately we have some of those also. This is what I normally call the pittings. So you harvest the benny today, and it goes through the pack house, and then just there when you inspect your pallets before after PPCB inspection, you can see the pitting already developing in your pack house. So there's no chilling injury, there's no chilling involved in this type of disorders, and we get it in Valencias, navals, and the mandarins. In the mandarins, the Nadorcot and Tango develop this quite easily, and that's a lot of it to do with moisture loss. So what for us is very important is that you need to measure the prevailing climate during your harvest. It's very dry and low humidity and warm during your harvest period. You need to make sure that you irrigate your trees again, so that you can rehydrate your rind. So if you harvest a Nadorcot that in the middle of the winter and it hasn't seen any water for 2-3 weeks, the tree, you're going to get pitting very, very quickly after harvest. So make sure that you follow your VPD, because it will give you some indication of what's happening in terms of your moisture, manage your time to harvest, and that's the only protection that you can get from this. Okay, so the last slide is in Patika spot, and I've included this because of the massive amount of lemons coming onto line. There's a lot of new areas and new producers now in the lemon game, and I don't think everybody know how much Patika can affect you. So in the early part of your season, you're always going to have more Patika. So if you in doubt of your Patika sensitivity, move your harvest at least two weeks later. You can test also by putting your lemons in a plastic bag just for a few days and to see if it's sensitive. But yeah, if in doubt, do not harvest your lemons. Okay, so you can contact me for any more help on this rind disorders. Okay, cheers.